And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Top Dog Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Reno. Alongside me, full house today. Dan Kiley, Kobe Pierce. Gentlemen, it's a wild Wednesday. Very wild Wednesday. Breaking news out of the Big Ten. We will touch on that here in a little bit. We'll also touch on some other coaching hires made in and around the world of college football over the last few weeks. And on top of that, we got some bowl games to talk about just a little bit. We've got a few bowl games, some of our favorites, matchups coming up over the next few weeks. A great time to be a college bowl fan. Plenty to discuss and a lot to get to over the next hour or so. Gentlemen, without further ado, before we get into the more national rankings, ratings, or I guess topics of sorts, we want to pick up from the weekend. Kobe, turning over the microphone to you, my friend, in terms of giving us your raw, unfiltered reactions to what went down in the Benz over the weekend, and we will roll from there. This is our hot topic essentially tonight. So the pressure's on, Kobe. Bring the juice.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll bring the juice like Dan did. I'm not sure. I didn't see the Sunday show. How pumped up Bama Dan was with Bama Harrison in here after a Dogs win. But
I need my script A.
Man, what a great feeling! Beat a streak comes to an end. Never beating these guys in an SC championship in Atlanta. And to do so in dominating fashion in a game that you really have to feel good about. That defense played really well. Your offense did what it needed to do to win. Your special teams comes up with a big moment in a big game. I mean, how many times, how many times can we say that over the 10-year career of Kirby Smart that it just seems like in a big game, something crazy special teams is going to happen. Like he really does live and breathe that all three phases of football win you the game. And in a big game, he is going to roll the dice on a special teams call. And when it hits, man, it just hits unlike anything else. But I thought, the most telling sign of that Kirby was going to get over the hump eventually, both in an Alabama and a Kalen DeBoer, is exactly how the game went as far as controlling the line of scrimmage and running the ball. Alabama's defense did not do a good job when we ran the ball. We ran the ball at will. We ran the ball consistently all night. If we needed 2 to 3 to 4 yards, you could turn around, hand the ball off, and we were getting them. And then for them, right, -3 yards, worst game since I think the 60s at Alabama to be held to -3 yards. So it's just where games are won and lost in the SEC consistently, right? You can get away with throwing the ball, going 5 wide, spreading it out. But when you need it, when you have the ball, when your defense needs a break, you have to be able to turn around and hand the ball off and have sustained drives by running the ball and imposing your will. I think that finally kind of caught up with Alabama and the new way they're doing things over there. So overall, phenomenal win. I would say my hottest takeaway from this game, it's something that Kirby talked on his soapbox. It's something I feel like the media hasn't talked about near enough. You played this game on Saturday. You won by 3 touchdowns, 28-7. You didn't move up a single spot in the rankings. Alabama did not drop a single spot in the rankings. You basically played that game, rolled all the dice, only to reward Alabama. If Alabama would have won that game, we would have fallen spots. Alabama would have gone up spots. So you're basically saying we played it for no, as far as the college football playoff, the way the committee has looked at it, there's no reward other than a conference championship for playing it. It's not like you won't have to play Alabama again. You could possibly have to play them again. It's not like you get, that boost in your ranking to give you an easier schedule. You started the weekend at 3, you ended the weekend at 3. They started the weekend at 9, they ended the weekend at 9. I just don't think, while I don't think Alabama maybe should have been knocked out of the playoffs for losing, the fact that they didn't move an inch is just amazing to me. I'm not sure if y'all talked about that at all. I'm not sure if y'all talked about Ohio State only going from 1 to 2. I'm not sure about any of that, but I will say overall, phenomenal win. It feels great to get the monkey off your back in Atlanta. Back-to-back SEC champions for the first time since we've been playing an SEC championship game. And like you're saying, in 10 years, you've played in all but 2 of them. You played in 8 of them. And I think you've won now 4 of them, 4 of the 8, if that's – somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 4 out of 8 is right.
Sounds right. 8 of the last 9.
8 of the last 9. Did play it in 16, didn't play in it in 20. So you've played in 8 of the last 10, I think, and then won 4 of the last 8.
And you just went back to this championship for the first time in conference championship history, for Georgia since the 80s. Dan wasn't even like 2 years old the last time they did that. So a lot obviously at hand there. Sorry. We touched on the playoff rankings a little bit, but interestingly enough, Dan's biggest grudge with the rankings was Miami's inclusion, if I'm not mistaken.
That is true. That was my biggest contention, because how can you have a team in the college playoff who didn't even qualify for their championship game? So both of the participants for a championship are excluded, but a team that didn't even play for it is included. That's make it make sense. I'm sorry. It just that doesn't sit well with me. And that's not me thumping for Notre Dame. I mean, hell, I don't care. I mean, keep BYU in. I mean, for God's sakes, just the fact that you include Miami, but the 2 teams who play for the conference championship, they're both out. That'd be like Georgia, Alabama playing, and then both of them get eliminated, and then Vanderbilt gets in. I mean, it's the stupidest shit I've ever heard. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
I think my big thing there with you is more on the fact that the playoff committee has been so scared to adjust their rankings until the end. And I don't know if they do that because a third party has put pressure on them to make the reveal show that much more like special, like everybody's tuning in to see who makes it. But it's like, to me, they could have fixed that 2 or 3 weeks ago. They should have either risen Miami's rankings quicker, or they should have dropped Notre Dame sooner. But it's like it's been this slow climb together I completely understand Notre Dame's problem with it. I mean, 2 weeks ago you were ranked ahead of Alabama. Then Alabama plays a tight game against a bad Auburn team, and all of a sudden you flip-flop. And then after Alabama loses a conference championship game, you go back another spot while Alabama stays in the same place. I 100% understand where all of a sudden you're looking at Notre Dame going, why has there been this slow fix? Why not come out and go, hey, we met, we talked, we realized that we jumped Notre Dame up to 7 way too quickly. We're going to make that adjustment this week and move them back to 12, kind of, shuffle things around. We feel like 12 is a lot closer to where they belong than being like, we're getting a lot of pressure from the outside. We're really going to have to move them back. We're really going to have to move them back again. Oh, no, now they're right beside Miami. How are we going to fix this blunder? Like you're saying, I mean, it seems like some of it's done for the national narrative of like, oh, there's going to be drama on selection day.
And the other biggest error is you have Ohio State play Indiana. Ohio State loses. Georgia plays Alabama. Georgia wins by 21 points. So now they have the exact same record, one of which is a conference champion, but that team doesn't move. So, I mean, the point is the SEC championship game didn't matter. It didn't need to be played because nothing happened. Georgia wins, doesn't move. Alabama loses, doesn't move. What the hell's the point of playing the damn game? It's absolutely insane. I mean, Georgia avenges the only loss on their schedule. So for all intents and purposes, they're undefeated. And Ohio State loses and doesn't even move. They're not even a conference champion. So anyway, I'm not going to go back into all that. We got way more stuff to talk about.
It is crazy how they change and adjust what they value in terms of how they look at teams. Because some teams, Alabama, for instance, was judged off of 12-game sample size, which they played in their 12 regular season games, and then they played a 13th game. Obviously, that 12-game sample size weighed in a lot more than the 13, and then Ohio State seemingly appears to be judged by its 12-game sample size rather than 13. Yet, you go look at others, BYU gets judged by 13, Miami's judged off its 12. Like, there's a lot of differing contradictions here, which I understand makes a lot of people frustrated about this whole dang thing. And I think the most important point is expansion is not going to fix any of this unless there's whole structural changes here. And that's not the answer. Let's perfect what we have and then figure out what we want to do.
And I think in the bottom line, I think the easiest solution that nobody wants to hear about, because everybody wants to talk about, 13, 12, 13, 14, all these teams deserve to make it. To me, all this weekend proved to me is that anybody outside of probably that 8 range really doesn't deserve to make shit. Alabama, if you'd have won the SEC championship game, yes, you probably would have been in the top 8. You get to play in the playoffs. But, like, you're in this limbo where, like, Miami has lost 2 pretty embarrassing games this year. I'm not really sure that they have a good win on schedule besides Notre Dame early in the year. Who are they hanging their hat on that we went somewhere and have a big marquee win? I mean, the ACC, like you just said, 7-5 Duke just won the ACC. You can't really hang your hat on in-conference wins. So then you're hanging it on Notre Dame, who you've been trash bashing, is not that good of a team, right? So then, to me, none of the teams, 9, 10, 11, 12, have any business being in this at all. And I hate that for Alabama. I hate they fall in that. I'm sure there will be like, oh, we beat you. You did. But, I mean, just think about it, right? What have you done in the last couple of weeks? Embarrassing loss to Oklahoma late in the year and an embarrassing loss to the SEC championship game. You would be looking at the team you beat saying they don't deserve a 3rd, 4th chance. I think it would have worked itself out just fine having 8 teams make it this year.
I think we all agree. Auto bid's got to go. And they probably won't, because I see a lot of the verdict being, well, if you get rid of the auto bids, then the G5's never going to get anybody in, which is fair, okay. but who cares?
Be ranked in the top 12. That's it.
I see the issue I see is more people, like, conferences are calling for auto bids. They're not calling for less auto bids. They're calling for more auto bids. They're calling for the top 3 teams in the SEC should make it no matter what. The top 2 teams in the ACC should make it no matter what. Like, that's not what the sport needs. Like you're saying, I need the 12 best teams. Now, I can I say, yeah, maybe you could include conference champions? Yeah, sure, maybe. But, like, to me, the top 5 highest ranked conference champions, when you only have 4 Power 5 conferences, you just roll into some problems, just like this year. The ACC's lackluster. A big upset happens. They get left out completely. I mean, talk about embarrassing.
And that's my big deal. That's why I don't really feel bad for Virginia or Duke. 8-5 Duke never was going to get in. And Virginia, they had to win that game to get in, to solidify their resume, was my whole deal with them. So I don't feel as bad for them. Now, that's where the issues come in, because I'm of the opinion, hey, Bama's 12-game sample size makes them a college football playoff team, yet they lost the SEC championship. So, but since we do that for them, then everyone's like, oh, well, you need to do it for everybody else. But here's the issue. And I think most people realize this. All conferences are not created equal. So the ACC should not get the same treatment that the SEC and Big Ten has, because they're not created equal. I think we all understand that. So while I understand how upsetting it is to see a BYU fall out and a Miami jump in, of the several different scenarios that this could have played out, I feel like this was, I guess, the best of the worst scenarios. Because in a world where Notre Dame gets in over Miami, then we've really reached a point of the games don't matter anymore. And that would be a whole different issue.
Miami has how many losses? 2?
2.
They lost to Louisville, and who's the other team they lost to?
Who is the other one they lost to? Probably says a good bit.
I'm looking it up just for you guys.
I want to say it was like.
Was it Pitt? No, it wasn't Pitt. They beat Pitt. That was when they scored the garbage time touchdown to beat them.
SMU in overtime.
SMU.
All right. So the point is, all right. So Notre Dame's loss is 1 point to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M is what, the number 7 seed, right?
On a botched PAT, not just
like
any 1 point loss,
right.
like on literally a botched PAT.
And the score that A&M put them up was like not a Hail Mary, but essentially it was a prayer.
All right. So and then they lost to Miami. It's like both of their losses are legitimate losses, right? Then you have Miami losing to
Louisville. At home, 24-21, when Miami was the number 2 team in the country.
And what was Louisville's final record?
Louisville's final record is 8-4.
Yeah, so you just lost the argument. I mean, come on, bro. Like, you lost to 2 bad football teams. Like,
I get it, but they also beat Notre Dame, and that has to matter. It's same resumes, and one team beat the other, so that has to matter. They have same resumes, and one team beat the other. That's the whole argument here. That game has to matter. Has to. If it's Miami has one less win, and Notre Dame has let's say Notre Dame's 10-2 and Miami's 9-3, then yes, Notre Dame gets in, has to. Then the head-to-head doesn't matter. But there's same record, same qualifications. Miami has the win.
I just think that it also I think football is a lot about trends, and it always has been. A lot of times, 99% of the time, it's when you lose the game, right? It's when
Notre
you
Dame
lose
lost
the game.
Week 1.
Notre Dame loses week 1 and week 2. Then they put together 10 straight wins. Miami at one point was the number 2 team in the country and lost at home to Louisville, turned around and beat the dog shit out of Stanford, and then turned back around again and lost to unranked SMU the next week. So they went 1-2 in 3 weeks, right? Late in the year. They bounced back. They beat Syracuse. They beat NC State. They beat Virginia Tech. They beat Pitt. Which one of those games really gets you feeling good about,
I mean, look.
I can take your argument and flip it on its head, Harrison, because Georgia lost early in the season to who? To Alabama. They are a much better team than the first time they played them. They played again, and what do? They beat the shit out of them. If you line Ohio or Michigan or 2 damn teams, if you line Miami and Notre Dame up right now, neutral field, they beat the shit out of them.
Oh, I don't disagree, but that's a different world.
It's when we were in the BCS era, when we were in the one team championship game type deal. The mantra was you can't lose late. You can't lose late because there's not enough time to make it back. Notre Dame lost early, they lost late, and then they just get catapulted in front with no wins that resonate with anybody. So it's a complete horseshit argument because I understand that the head-to-head's supposed to matter, but it's week 1. I mean.
Then why play games in week 1? I guess is the next argument.
Our team's not supposed to get better.
My argument is that you'll see teams not play games in week 1.
Yeah, well, I mean, why would you at this point?
I mean,
well, that's the whole thing. Look, Notre Dame, like I said, Notre Dame looked like the better team at the end of the season. There is no argument there, but they played head-to-head, boys, and that's my thing.
Week 1.
I don't care when it's played.
But I guess my thing is, and Dan's thing is, at the end of the day, sometimes it also matters who you've lost to, right? Even if you have that head-to-head, right? So Notre Dame has lost to Miami, who is a playoff caliber team, and Texas A&M, who is a playoff caliber team. Miami has lost to 2 teams that are unranked. One at home.
That's their problem as well, because then after that, their resume goes to crap, kind of like Notre Dame is.
So that's what I guess we're saying. Even though, yes, theoretically they are both 10-2, and Miami has the nod on the head-to-head. The other loss Notre Dame has is a single-point loss against the number 7 team in the country. Then you go down and you look at Miami and you go, okay, who are their 2 losses against? Their 2 losses are against unranked Louisville at home, unranked SMU on the road. While I get it, maybe whatever, things happen. I just don't know that you can look at those and go, oh, well, this team is better today than Notre Dame is. Even, I don't know. I'm with them why they did it. I'm just saying I still think their thought process has been flawed.
I think overall, the only reason Miami gets that Notre Dame's not in this is because of the auto bids. This has nothing to do with Miami versus Notre Dame at the end of the day. I think we all realize that. They didn't want an ACC team in, but they had to put one in because the auto bids pretty much make it so at the end of the day. So.
But the two teams who play for the conference champion, neither one of them are in.
Yeah. It's a messy situation. And my whole deal with this whole thing is there are issues with the in-season rankings and the week-to-week stuff, and there's no continuity from year to year or even from week to week. But I also look at it from the other side of, well, it's, the whole structure of this thing isn't set up by a committee. It's set up by a whole different, it's set up by the conferences. And, there's so many flaws.
I'll tell you this. With the playoff expanding, it was a terrible time for conferences to expand at the same time. Things would be working themselves out so much better if conferences were still smaller than they are bigger. You would be having such an easier time, such a better time. As a big thing Kirby talked about post-game, shout out my man at the SEC office. He talked about, this was both teams' 9th SEC game, and that next year everybody would be playing a 9th SEC game. The conference champion and runner-up would play a 10th SEC game. It's 8 more losses on their resume. It's a bigger game every year, and in a playoff and in a committee that really is negative against losses. Losses matter a lot. Why roll those dice to lose one more extra game to make the conference look weaker, when in reality, had you not played this SEC championship game, you would have had the number 3, exactly the way it ended up turning out with the way Alabama got to stay put. But there's a real world where the committee could have just flicked Alabama out, put Notre Dame and Miami in, and I'm not really sure a lot of people would have blinked.
I don't think anybody would have blinked.
And there's so many issues. There really is. And it kind of makes you look back on just years ago where, the SEC and the Big Ten were the 2 best power conferences. But you go look at how spread out everything else was. I go back to, what was it, 2022? Oregon and Washington were the 2 best teams in the Pac-12. You had a USC team that looked like it was on the rise. You had Texas and OU in the Big 12. You had Georgia, Alabama in the SEC. And then you had the ACC was by far the worst power conference because it was legit just only Clemson. And that was the beginning of Clemson's descent. And now it's like you have the 2 best Big 12 teams in the SEC on top of what the SEC already has. You have the 2 best by far from the Pac-12 in the Big 10 on top of what they already have. And it just leaves no room. It really doesn't. So, there's essentially a conference that doesn't exist anymore because of all this.
Well, you just run into issues like you're saying. The Big 12 could have easily been Texas versus Texas Tech this year / Oklahoma. Pac-12 could be Oregon's baby all the way. Indiana, Ohio State are the big dogs. Georgia, Alabama are the big dogs. You basically eliminate that by condensing it into, like you're saying, Oregon didn't play in their conference championship game, and they almost got the 4 seed. They have 1 loss on the year, and it's to the conference champion. They have as many losses on the year as Ohio State to the same team, and they're 1, 2, and 5.
Guys, look, I just think about this kind of off the top of my head. Think how many coaches probably saved their jobs, still have a job if it wasn't for realignment. There's an opportunity that Mark Stoops doesn't lose his job at Kentucky this offseason just by product of not having 2 extra losses on the schedule with 2 new teams coming to the conference. So wild times, and things got wild today. I guess switching points to more national news. Boys, I think the bombshell of all bombshells dropped this afternoon. Sherrone Moore out at Michigan for cause. And it's not the cause you thought it would be. I initially, when we saw the for cause thing,
It's a whole
I think
different kind of cheating.
Yeah, a whole different world of cheating. Not related to the football problems. Apparently had a sexual affair off the field with an administrative staffer. First time I think we've ever talked about this on this show, maybe other than Dan. I don't even remember if we talked about the Brian Harsin ousting.
We didn't.
We didn't. Maybe that was before our time. Out at Michigan for calls on that. And then just minutes before we go live, he's been detained, not arrested, detained by police up in, is that Saline? How do you say that? Saline, Michigan? Dan, you're my northern guy. Is it Saline?
Yeah, I think so.
So no word officially on what it was. There are rumors out there. Nothing confirmed on that account. Boys, this all comes like a week and a half after some of the biggest dominoes or perceived biggest dominoes fell in the coaching carousel. And now Michigan's jumping into the mix just weeks ahead of the opening of the transfer portal, and they're looking for a new head ball coach.
It's we had a chance to talk about this a little bit. It's unfortunate timing, and it was preventable because they knew about this since November or mid-November. They could have made a change there, but they wanted to keep him in place so they could beat Ohio State. And that's the reason. It's twofold. They wanted to beat Ohio State, and they felt like he gave them the best chance to do it. So clearly, it wasn't a big enough issue then. And then they had to keep that recruiting class intact. With Savion Hitter and some of the other guys that they've got. Or I said Hitter. I didn't say Hitler. I said Hitter.
I know. It was close.
What? I know who he is.
I'm sorry.
I was hoping he'd be a Georgia Bulldog.
Relax, dog. I was just laughing. Relax.
Yeah, so
it was funny.
He
like corrected himself. He made sure he said hair. That was the best part.
But it's one of those things where Michigan has the biggest football-related scandal in recent memory, and they don't really penalize anybody for that. They're just like, yeah, we're good. We got a national championship. Roll dog. But now they're like, guy has an affair. That's a big deal. I'm not here to play moral police. I'm not trying to say whether it's right or wrong or indifferent. They were both consenting adults. It's not like he had a 14-year-old, that would have been a lot different. But this is, I don't know. It got crazy to worse, but they could have hired somebody earlier, whatever. Now they're in a situation where pretty much all the chips have fallen or dominoes have fallen and everybody's found themselves a new home. But I will say the caveat to all of this is Michigan is one of those top jobs where it doesn't come open very often. And when it does, it gets everybody's attention. So obviously there's rumors flying around everywhere about who they're going to talk to, who they could potentially talk to. So-and-so is talking to so-and-so's representatives. I mean, like I don't know if that's true or whatever. And you guys can say that if you want to, but there is going to be some big names linked to this job. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's an NFL name.
I will say this about the Michigan job, and you said something about, it doesn't come open often. It doesn't come open often now with the chance to completely cut ties with the previous staff that has kind of stained. Because to me, even Sharon Moore hanging around is like, okay, we know he was cheating. We know he was a part of that. We know he was a part of that culture. We know all of that, right? Like, this gives you a chance to clean house. Nobody at Michigan was there when they were, stealing signs and doing all the illegal stuff. You get to take it over just fresh and clean. I think that's an important thing as far as, being able to recruit for that, being able to preach that, being able to, tell the fans that like, hey, we're doing things the right way. And I like you're saying, I think it's going to have a lot of big name buzz, a lot of guys that already maybe have a home, a lot of guys that are in the NFL. There's going to be a lot of coordinators. I mean, I'm not sure that there's a coordinator in the country that if they got the phone call about being interested in the Michigan job wouldn't pick up the phone and talk for an hour.
Yeah, and this is kind of like Dan said, it's one of those jobs where it's so big that even if you got your coach on a contract, you're sitting there as an athletic director like, oh boy, oh no. And coaches probably thought, oh man, we just survived, the 3-week, 2.5-week notice of the carousel. Our coach didn't get snatched. And buddy at Mizzou's probably sitting there chomping, just nervously biting his nails, thinking, oh boy, they're going to make another run at Drinkwitz here. Heck, we all thought the Jimmy Sexton, Kalen DeBoer PR campaign was over. And then who knows? His name's being floated around with Michigan now. Crazy times in the sport. Ultimately, on the spot right now, I asked, who y'all think the Michigan head coach is?
Not Mel Tucker.
That's for damn sure. I forgot about that.
Listen, is Deadspin a real source still? I mean, I know that they were sometimes funny, but sometimes serious. So are we giving any credit to Deadspin?
I'm familiar with Deadspin, but I'm not sure if we consider them fully credible in this matter.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't drop that from them, but
I think that guy might actually be a fake account. But then again, this was the guy that put out that Mateer betting stuff.
It's one of those things. The Michigan job, I feel like, because they had such like a knee-jerk reaction when they hired Sharon Moore, like I don't know if he was who I would have considered the best candidate for that job was anyways.
He's who the players wanted.
Which is fine, whatever. I mean,
I'm just for what it's worth.
Brothers got game, you know what I'm saying?
Clearly.
I think this is gonna more than likely wrap up by week's end. I mean, they're going to be on the phone hard and heavy from now until Sunday, and Michigan will have a new head coach by Sunday.
Well, and I can take it a step further. They knew this was coming. They may have already been on the phone. So
and that's the one thing that we were talking about, that we were questioning. It's like, how long did you know this, and how quickly did this move? Because this is like, it came out of nowhere today in terms of like, hey, we just fired him, but there'd been rumors swirling around on the internet about this for like weeks in terms of this relationship.
Supposedly the coaching staff knew in November, and it wasn't a secret. Like, they knew this was going on. They didn't know he was going to get in trouble for it, but they knew that the Michigan was looking into it in mid-November. That's what I just read before we came on here, because my stepdad is dialed into all that Michigan stuff and the beat writers for Michigan. We have our beat writers here at Georgia that are pretty dialed in. I know, like Harrison, your guy Roddy, he knows people. So when he puts out something on Georgia, he's not going to write an article that he's not familiar with. He's not going to do that. So every school has those guys, and the information is coming out, and it's coming out fast in a hurry. And it's getting crazier by the minute, right? I mean, first it was he's getting let go for cause. Then it's like, hey, this is why. Oh my gosh. And he did this. And now he's being detained because he's threatening to kill himself. Like, this story just went from funny, haha, to funny, oh, damn, to funny, not funny. Like, now it's serious. Like, I mean, listen, what he did wasn't right. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to kill themselves. I mean, that's going way too far. So, but you never know what somebody's going.
But he's got kids. I mean, that's
and I believe he's married. Is he not?
Yeah, but I mean, like, if he,
but she's a person too.
For sure. But I'm thinking like long term with the kids too.
Sure, but like, you just destroyed a family. Like today, a family was destroyed, and like, I come from a broken home, and like, that shit hit home hard, right? Like, it's not easy when that happens. So, I thoughts and prayers, right? I mean, it's gotten to that point. It went from funny haha to thoughts and prayers in a hurry.
Well, and it's like still waiting on. I'm sitting here checking the notifications just to see if there's going to be that Pete Thamel bomb or Pete Nichols bomb in terms of what these actual potential charges are or what he was detained for. Obviously, like Dan said, there are rumors out there in terms of what it is. And maybe it's not rumors. Maybe it turns out to be like, hey, this is really early and like factual intel on that. So I was, if you had told me 2 years ago when he was hired or whenever it was that, they're going to move on from him before his third season, I wouldn't have been shocked, because for a little bit there, it seemed like he was going to be the fall guy for all of these, like, cheating stuff. So when that initial for cause came out, it shocked me a little bit in terms of the timing, because you thought if they were going to do that because of the cheating scandal, it would have been done, after the Ohio State game, like directly afterwards or something, not a week after or not even a few days after the Big Ten championship. Then the other part comes out, the other cheating, and I'm like, this just went from like a 5 to a 9.5 in terms of story scale. Like, this is nuclear. I think someone called it earthquake on Twitter.
So to answer your question, I mean, there's a couple candidates that we know, like Kalen DeBoer is obviously going to be linked to this. Winters, the DC for the Chargers, will be linked to this. Obviously had been the DC at Michigan under Harbaugh. A name that I threw out there was Dayball, the old Giants coach. I think that could be a potential opportunity, because he has coached in college before. He's familiar with the North. He's got the NFL pedigree. And then I just threw a wild card in there to Harrison, and Kobe hasn't heard this yet. What if Matt LaFleur gets let go from the Green Bay Packers, and he comes over there and he's the head coach at Michigan? You have a young guy who can recruit and has a dynamic offense. And he's a run-centric guy, which fits the profile of Michigan. So those were just some names that floated at the top of my head. Kobe, do you have any go ahead, Harrison.
Real quick, because I just looked this up. Because I like, obviously we know Matt LaFleur's been in the professional ranks for years, but boys, I just looked at his resume. This guy has some. He worked at Central Michigan as a grad assistant, and he was the quarterback coach at Notre Dame in 2014. But that Central Michigan, just for record, that was the school that Connor Stallions was pimped out in a disguise for. So, like, this is a natural fit. Trade in the Central Michigan clothes for that Michigan blue. Like, this fits, Dan. I didn't even know LaFleur had college coaching ties. So obviously he's been out of the college world for almost 12 years now, and we've talked about it. It does feel like if he does get let go by the Packers, you'd expect him to get another college or professional job. But I mean, maybe that's a name in a week's time where we're all coming back here and like, Dan, what did you know and when did you know it? Type deal.
It would be crazy, especially because like the Packers are in first place in the NFC North. Like, very obviously doesn't feel like he's trending towards getting fired in Green Bay. But like you're saying, it's one of those jobs that a lot of weird names are going to get thrown out at, because Michigan typically, and it was part of the reason Sharon Moore was such an odd hire for them, I would say places like that aren't typically the place that's going to take a big roll of the dice or a big risk on an unknown, coordinator that could really, really blow things up. They're going to take a chance on someone that's proven. I think that's why Brian Kelly's name has been tossed around for it. I think that's why Kalen DeBoer's name, I'm sure a bunch of coaches that are, unhappy will kind of get their name tossed around in that hat. I think I saw Harrison, maybe you shared it was Pete or somebody on 3 that was like, could Lincoln Riley be, possibly connected with it? I mean, just guys that you're just like, why? Why would he leave USC for Michigan? Why would he leave Alabama for Michigan? Why? But it happens sometimes, right? Like, you end up sniping somebody that you don't expect at all. So
talk about a culture reset from Sharon Moore and Jim Harbaugh to the dry brisket man, Lincoln Riley. I mean, just diametrically.
I also didn't, but I never saw him leaving Oklahoma to go to USC either.
True.
When he took that job, I was like, what the heck? I thought he had it all in a bag of chips at Oklahoma.
If you're Lincoln Riley, I mean, granted, you just signed an amazing recruiting class, but at the same time, you're one bad season away from getting your butt fired. So this would be kind of a new lease on life. So that would be, if he were to, he's not leaving, but if he were to do it, that would be a reason.
And that'll be a big thing, I think, too. Obviously, a lot of recruits will be able to get out of their national letters of intent, I would assume, from Michigan now as well. Probably
you
won't
can
take a lot
transfer
of
anyway.
but I'm just saying, probably won't take a lot of squeezing to get you out of Dodge with your coach getting fired for cause within a week of signing. So I don't really even know what Michigan saves by firing him after signing day, because I mean, until I've enrolled in class, like I'm probably calling the NCAA or the school and saying, hey, until you hire a new head coach, I'm not gonna be there in January.
Who was it? This happened somewhere else. Similar circumstances where a coach got fired shortly after signing day, and a kid worked his way out of that. I think he wasn't able to get out of his signing or letter. Oh, was it Rashada? I think Jaden Rashada just immediately entered the portal before heading to Florida, went to Arizona State, if I remember correctly. I don't think he was ever able to get out of his. It was because it was after he signed the letter of intent and enrolled, or right before he enrolled, that they didn't make fulfill their promises. So he just hit the portal pretty much immediately, if I remember correctly.
I'm not exactly sure how all that works, but if it's one of those things where Michigan players are looking for a new home, Savion, we got room for you, buddy.
Dan's already
all day.
Dan wants to be saying that name quite more often.
It flows on. It's just Savion. Just hey, buddy. It's just silky smooth, like the way he runs the football.
Oh boy! All right. Let's talk about some other coaching carousel news. Georgia, all 3 annual opponents in conference have new head coaches. Will Stein to Kentucky, Alex Golesh to Auburn, and John Sumrall to Florida. Let's start down south with the Gators. If you want to get Dan fired up, you want to get Kobe fired up, talk about the people down in Gainesville. So not only do they get Sumrall, but they go inside the coaching tree and they take Buster Faulkner down there with them to as the offensive coordinator from Georgia Tech. Just immediate reactions to the Sumrall hiring and that subsequent hiring of the coordinator, because that's, in terms of making a splash down there in Gainesville, hiring somebody with those ties like Buster does and who's had the success up until the other week against Georgia's defense, that's definitely an attention getter.
Let me tell you what that screams to me for Buster. I would be worried if I was a Georgia Tech fan, because I would say you looked at the writing on the wall of what do we have on roster when Haynes King leaves this year, and what does Florida have on roster, and what's going to make me look better as an offensive coordinator, the players I got down at Florida or the fellows I got returning here at Georgia Tech. I feel like it was a wonderful, wonderful quarterback OC relationship while he was at Georgia Tech. But I would say after that, he definitely is feeling like Florida is going to give him the next opportunity to prove himself in the best conference in the sport. I think it's a good hire. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you that Buster Faulkner is not a good hire. I would be interested to know if it's one of those hires that he thinks he made because he has the inside scoop into Georgia, and like he thinks he's always going to be able to put a competitive offense on the field against like our tendencies. But hey, they got a lot of talent. Nobody ever has accused Florida of not having the talent to win down there. So I guess at some point, if you can find the coordinators, if you can find the X's and O's guys, you have the talent. That's just really what you've been missing. Dan, what you think?
What if a guy like Aaron Philo follows him down to Florida? A guy who already knows your system, so he can help you put it in, so to speak, where you don't have to teach it to your quarterback. He already knows. And if you remember before the season, there was a lot of people that were trying to say that Aaron Philo should have been the quarterback at Georgia Tech. Now that obviously was short-sighted and proved not to be true. But there were people saying that. So I think before the Buster Faulkner hire, I was thinking this is Billy Baggs version 2 with Sumrall, right? A guy from a smaller conference, has a little quick turnaround, a little bit of success at a program, and then you hire him. And that's not. I don't mean that to be a shot at Sumrall. I know it's a shot at Sumrall, but I didn't mean it to be. The guy may or may not be a really good coach. It's I don't know enough about him to know how good or not he can be. But what I do know is he's smart enough to hire a really good guy. And I think all 3 of our opinions on Buster Faulkner are pretty high. I think we all agree that He's pretty damn good at his job. So for a head coach to come in and then immediately go in and make an impact hire like that, I think speaks volumes to this guy as a coach. I remember a long, long time ago, somebody was talking to Bobby Bowden about being a good coach. He said, I'm not a good coach. He said, I hire a bunch of good coaches and let them coach. That's what makes me a good coach. And I agree with that. Like, if you're going to be the head coach, you need to make sure that you have the best people on your staff. I think Kirby does a great job of that, of hiring really good people. And obviously we know Kirby's hands-on, but at the same time, he lets his guys coach, right? He coaches them how he wants it to be done, and then he lets them go and do their job. And I think that was a mature move by Sumrall to bring in another big name to come with him. And my assumption would be that means Sumrall's a defensive head coach to begin with.
I agree. And just to touch on that one more time, and then we'll be done with Florida. I think, a lot of people, especially Georgia fans, the ribbon on Twitter and places, Sunbelt Billy, this is, Sunbelt Billy number 2. Like, there's a really reason Billy Napier is going to be coaching as a head coach next season. I mean, gets fired from Florida, immediately hired at JMU. The guy is a good coach. He knows how to coach. He had a really good career down at ULL. I mean, it's a couple of 11-win seasons in a row, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, things don't work out for you at Florida, but, you look back, did you hire the best coordinators? Did you transition your offense to the SEC quick enough? They had a phenomenal defense this year, but they just didn't have the offense to play complementary football with. And it's just tough, right? Like, that's one thing that Sumrall is going to have to deal with, especially now going to the 9th game. Like, it's hard to get good when everybody else is already good. And that was, I think, a big problem Billy Napier had. I mean, 2 of his seasons down there, I'm pretty sure they were the number 1 strength of schedule in the country back-to-back years. It's like, it's just hard to win in that kind of situation, right? When you're playing top 10 opponents almost every week, nobody turns, a pile of shit into a gold mine playing that.
I love it. Someone put on a piece of paper. It's hard to get good when everybody else is already good. Kobe Pierce, 2025.
It's one of the best. It's one of the best reasons to me. Georgia's hire of Kirby Smart was at the perfect time. Like, not everybody was great in the SEC yet, and you took a chance to be great, and you were. Versus, like, in this case, of Florida, you're late. You're late compared to everyone else and where everyone else is.
And I guess now for them in their case, it's obviously, what does Sumrall do on the trail in terms of Billy got them back to being a top 15, top 10 class recruiting wise. But like y'all said, they've had the talent down there. It felt like their roster was talented this past year and they couldn't put together the offensive end. And then from the Buster perspective, guys, this is the first time in his career as a coordinator at a high level that he's going to have to basically design an offense that has diametrically opposed skill sets to what he had in Haynes King for 3 years, I believe, down at Georgia Tech. Obviously, Haynes King was, I think he's like a 2,500 yard passer, but like 1,000-yard rusher. Legit. This guy is a run first quarterback, and obviously Buster used that to his advantage. Well, you have to go back to, and now he's going to go to a Florida situation where right now DJ Lagway is their quarterback, and that's a pocket passer who is athletic, who can run, but you're not going to run that guy 20, 30 times a game. And like Dan said, there's now people are wondering what happens with Aaron Philo, who, again, is more of a pocket passer, more of your traditional quarterback. And how does he reinvent the wheel? How does he, still give teams like Georgia and other top opponents problems offensively? So interesting stuff there down in Gainesville. I'm sure we'll be talking about them a little bit over the coming weeks, especially over the offseason in terms of whatever news breaks out from there. Let's go to the Plains. Auburn hired Alex Golesh, a former offensive coordinator over there at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. Obviously, we know what Josh Heupel runs in terms of, the wide spacing and all that. This is a guy that obviously another G5 coach making the jump up to the SEC. But much like Sumrall has done at Tulane, and to an extent what Billy did at ULL, Golesh had built something, I don't want to say, well, special in terms of what USF was doing. They upset Florida this year. They got some marquee wins. They were a ranked team for a while. And this is a guy that obviously had something going down there, is getting the chance to go to Auburn, who really never built anything, never figured anything out at the quarterback position under Hugh Freeze. And again, it's a situation where they have talent. Like, they got a number of future NFL draft picks over there, none bigger than maybe Cam Coleman, and they couldn't figure it out at quarterback. Well, and their best quarterback play was at the end of the year, and they hadn't started the kid all year.
I think the biggest advantage that Golesh has is, what state did he just come from? Florida. Where has he been recruiting for the last couple of years? Florida. Where do a ton of talented players come out of? Florida. He has ties in that. He's got relationships with high school football coaches. It makes a hell of a lot of sense. That's one of the things, coming from New Orleans and Tulane, he'll be able to have some relationships with, going to Florida. But coming from Tulane, he'll have relationships in Louisiana, which is probably a good thing. But it's just really hard to pull those kids out of the state of Louisiana. Those kids tend to go to LSU more times than not. I mean, obviously you'll get one here and there, but one of the richest, most fertile recruiting grounds is South Georgia into Florida, and that is definitely an area that South Florida has recruited. So, moving him up to Auburn, which really isn't that far removed, and Auburn has done a really good job through the years of hanging on to those kids in that part of Alabama, and then also in the South Georgia. Because if you think about it, a lot of times, it didn't make sense to a lot of people, but Auburn is a hell of a lot closer to some of those South Georgia schools than it is to Athens. Like, Kobe, you're from Cairo. I mean, what is it? Maybe like an hour drive to Auburn versus 3 hours up here to 4 hours up here to Athens?
Yeah, like you're saying, probably 2 hours to Auburn, 4.5 to 5 to Athens. So, I mean, 100%.
Yeah, so I'm sure you grew up with a bunch of kids that were Auburn fans. So it just makes sense. Like geographically, I think that is a really good hire to get a guy who already knows this region and has proven to be a pretty good football coach on top of that, but then also has a lot of relationships with the high schools down here, gives them such a leg up as opposed to, the biggest talking point about when Kalen DeBoer came down here to Alabama is that he doesn't have relationships down here. It's going to take him time to get those relationships built into these high schools and convince these guys to send their kids to him. Obviously he's had some pretty decent success at it, but to already just not even have that be a factor is a good starting point. That was one of my things when Auburn didn't hire Billy Napier. I thought Billy Napier would have been an absolute home run hire at Auburn because he's from LaGrange. His daddy coached at LaGrange, the high school, and they have a bunch of relationships down in the area. And I just thought that would have been a natural fit. I mean, it's neither here nor there, but I think that's my biggest takeaway really is the fact that the guy has already got relationships in an extremely fertile recruiting area. And we all know the number one thing you have to win in college football is players. And to have a guy that has access to players, that's just a good starting point. It doesn't necessarily guarantee success, but it puts you in a much better starting spot than, otherwise.
And the first early test with Golesh, and this will be a good kind of litmus test in terms of seeing how his tenure is going to go, is what he retains on his own roster. Like, he's going to have to recruit his ass off these next 2 weeks on his own roster. If you can get Cam Coleman to buy in, you can get several of those guys on the defensive side of the ball that are all talented to buy in and stay there instead of hopping in the portal and go seeing if the grass is greener, which with the way Auburn's been going, it probably is greener on the other side these last few years. That's going to be a great litmus test for him. I'm curious to see what he does in terms of choice at offense and what he does at the quarterback position. What does he do there? Because obviously that is the position where things went wrong under Hugh Freeze and they never figured it out. And that's ultimately why Hugh Freeze got fired, is because he never figured it out at quarterback until obviously the end there. Got Deuce Knight and then never, it was Ashton Daniels at the end of the year that played the best quarterback play that they had all year and made you wonder what the heck were they doing for those 8 weeks before then.
And didn't he jump in the portal?
Who?
Ashton, he's going back in the portal, I think.
Oh, is he? I know Jackson Arnold hopped back in there.
Oh, maybe that's what I saw. Maybe that's what it was. Sorry, I
I was about to say
apologize.
I
you're good.
haven't seen either one of those. And I guess my thing is too, like when you're starting to talk about again, good. Are you good? Are you getting good at the right time? Are you great? Are you great at the right time? Can you make a good team great when everybody else is great around you? Next year for Auburn, Golesh's opening season, and this does matter. I mean, people really don't think it does, but it does. They play Baylor in Atlanta. They play Alabama at Alabama. They play Arkansas, who has a new coach. They play Florida, who has a new coach. They play LSU, who will have a new coach, albeit that Lane Kiffin. They'll play a Diego Pavia-less Vanderbilt. They'll play at Georgia. They'll play at Mississippi State. They'll play at the Pete Golding Ole Miss. And they'll play at Tennessee. I feel like in a year of turmoil and big, high turnover, your expectation would be to beat Arkansas, to beat Florida, to beat Vanderbilt, to beat Mississippi State, and probably to beat Ole Miss. You'd probably be okay with a loss against Georgia, probably be okay with a loss against maybe Tennessee, and a loss against Alabama. 8-4, I would think would be, 8-4 would definitely be something that in the preseason you could definitely see happening for them if you can squeak one out against Baylor. I would say that's your biggest difference.
And then 9-3 would be looking pretty, I think. And that's that's the conversation that we've had before, where perspective has changed, right? I mean, because 9-3 would be a good year.
Absolutely. All right. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up with some bowl talk real quick. Gentlemen, what games interest you? I have one that is. I'm not
Texas Michigan just got interesting.
Yeah, but I got that got a lot more interesting than what it was looking like. The one that sticks out to me, and it's not because it's going to be a great football game. I don't think in terms of stylistic, in two teams that have played well this year, but Penn State Clemson in the Bad Boys Mower Pinstripe Bowl just screams to me. Battle of Mid over there, wherever the hell Pinstripe Bowl's held. Looks like New York.
Let me tell you the one that talks to me the most. Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia.
Oh boy.
Play the Men in Black of Iowa.
Does he play though?
I don't care, dude. If he does, I hope he does, but
I guess why would he not? I don't think it's gonna be a draft prospect.
Nothing chokes out a great offense like them boys up in Iowa. Just corn-fed. They'll just eat you alive. I mean, that'll be the kind of game to be like 12-15 final. He better be glad the Heisman Trophy is before that game, because I just feel like that they have a thing that all of a sudden he'll have 120 yards passing and 3 interceptions against Iowa.
Can I throw out a game that nobody's looking at?
Absolutely.
Kennesaw State, Western Michigan. I mean, Kennesaw State had probably. I'm not a historian, but that's got to be one of the greatest one-year turnarounds in NCAA Division I history. It's got to be. If it's not the best, it's got to be one of the best. And then they have an opportunity now to go to a bowl game, albeit the Myrtle Beach Bowl presented by Engine, whatever the hell Engine is. I mean, are we talking about 454 or something? What are we talking about? But anyway, it doesn't matter. Kennesaw State gets an opportunity to play in a bowl game, and if I'm not mistaken, 12th win, right, Harrison? Wouldn't this be their 12th win?
11th, or 10th win.
Okay, still, I mean, that's a heck of a turnaround. Major kudos to their head coach. I'm surprised that he wasn't cherry picked
and avenged a loss. Lost to Jacksonville State earlier in the year, and then beat Jacksonville State in the conference championship game. So, I mean, like you're saying, really talk about one of those years that you turn things around. And, 2 of those, they're 9-3, but 2 of those losses, a 1-point loss at Wake Forest, and then kind of an ass whooping at Indiana. But we'll just glaze over that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just, that's kind of like the feel good story, right? I will watch that game.
I mean, they were 3-9 last year, I think, in their first season of Division I football.
I think they were 2-10.
2-10, even better.
'Cause I don't think-
Even better.
I don't think they had a Division I win. I think their wins were over FCS teams. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think the only game I watched.
They beat Temple last year.
Okay, there you go.
And they beat because I was there. Hootie hoo! I was there for Kennesaw State Temple.
Well, I remember watching them lose to Sam Houston State in overtime, which at the time would have been their second win of the season. So, and I watched just the end of that game. All right, I got two. Talk about interesting. All right, first off, this is crazy to me. This isn't even a bowl game, essentially, for Tennessee. Tennessee is going to Nashville to play Illinois. Do y'all remember the pettiness that what's his name over there? Brett Bielema had with Shane Beamer last year in the Mayo Bowl, Deuce Mayo Bowl. Those two were just jawing toward the end of that game. What the heck are they going to do with Josh Heupel and him? That's going to be talk about style clash. You know, Brett Bielema and his Illinois team is defense
Did you
first.
know that that's a silent?
Illinois? Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Dan. That's going to be a clash of styles, and it's legit. Not even probably what? How far is Knoxville from Nashville? 2-3 hours?
I don't think it's that far. Maybe hour and a half.
Like you're saying, less than 3 hours.
Not even a bowl game experience. That's just a neutral site game for them. I mean, not even. But anyways, that's one, and then the other, the Pop-Tart Bowl. We have to talk about the Pop-Tart Bowl. Georgia Tech, BYU. Whoo boy. Number 47 at quarterback, Ben Bachmeier versus Haynes King, and what will be Haynes King's last college career game. Like, see what happens. And I don't even know, is Buster going to coach that game? Is Buster done for the year? Is he going to finish out? So more storylines there for the Yellow Jackets. Anyways, anything else? Any other?
Yes. Can we talk about the dumbest bowl name? The Wasabi Fenway Bowl, because nothing screams wasabi like Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, wasabi.
What are we talking like? Wasabi Fenway Bowl. That makes no damn sense. The game is not good.
Let me talk to you about something that don't make no damn sense.
All right.
Hawaii playing in Hawaii.
That tracks. I was saying that the head ball coach not winning SEC Coach of the Year. That is what I was thinking. Doesn't make any sense.
Hey,
Shout out Clark Lee.
You may have put something really offensive on the screen.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of shocked. I don't know what that was. All right. Anyways, say that again, Kobe.
Yeah, it's okay, fellas. I'm just talking to myself down here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, hold on. I'll put you up here. That way you don't feel like you're talking to yourself down there.
I'm saying Kirby Smart not winning SEC Coach of the Year, back-to-back SEC champion, playoff appearances, top 4 seeds, not the best coach in the SEC? Question mark.
Who was it?
People are Clark Lee.
I'm not shocked.
I mean, no,
considering the season Vandy had.
Shocked, but I mean, the season they had, they won 10 games. I guess they won 10 games for the first time in school history, but
yeah.
I mean,
Ole Miss recruit, Kobe.
But Ole Miss won 11 games for the first time in school history. I don't hear anybody talking about Lane as the coach of the year. I mean, just because you have won, just because you're less sucky than you've ever been, doesn't mean you're just phenomenal, right? Like,
it's hard to get good when everybody else is good, Kobe. Got to give Vandy some credit.
I can't believe you've never heard that before.
That's awesome.
It's hard to get good when everybody else is already good. Like it's a harder challenge, right? Like it makes sense. Like,
how about the we used to be Division I AA powers, but now we're FBS teams. The Georgia Southern App State game.
In a rematch too. I'm pretty sure that last game went to overtime.
That has a chance to be a sneaky good game. So,
that's a 5-7 App State.
That's 2 teams. That's 2 teams that hate each other too. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, they dislike each other.
I'm looking, boys. I'm looking to see if there's anything else. Duke's Metal Bowl was
Alabama, Oklahoma rematch. I'm excited for that personally.
That's a playoff game. Come on.
Yeah,
Kobe.
but I'm like, out of all the playoff games and all like the little rematches, that's one of those that kind of piques my interest.
Who do you think wins that game?
Knee jerk?
Alabama?
No, knee jerk Oklahoma.
Can we say the best game on paper is Michigan, Texas, aside from the Sharon Moore stuff? Like that game should have been the best game on paper.
Bryce Underwood versus Arch Manning. That's interesting, considering all the NIL dollars Bryce Underwood got last year.
Bryce Underwood to LSU.
God, could you imagine
Hammer
if Brian Kelly gets hired over at Michigan and Underwood still ends up coaching or playing under Brian Kelly?
Underwood's on his way to LSU if Trinidad Chambliss and them know anything. I know he has to have another year of eligibility or whatever, but I would think that at this point, heading south would be the smart move. All right, fellas. Great show. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Harrison's ready to go.
Do it again, Kobe. Hit it for me again. Kobe,
This has been the Top Dog Talk podcast. We'll see you on Sunday for a little preview show of the bowls, I guess. I don't know. Reaction show maybe to Army-Navy. We didn't talk about Army-Navy at all tonight. Sorry to the troops. We really just don't care that much.
Shout out to the troops. Hey, we'll tune in. We will be tuned in on Saturday for sure.
I will be, but I didn't feel like there were a lot of big talking points like there have been in years past on Army-Navy.
How often do you talk about option football?
Man, I love it. I could talk a whole show about option football.
See you next week, boys.